Z-shaped bend tragedy in Parker's Pit. On January 25, 1986, four cave explorers arrived at Parker's Pit Cave for a long-anticipated expedition. Known for its deep vertical drops and technical difficulty, Parker's Pit drew experienced cavers from across the Midwest. The cave required advanced rappelling techniques and specialized gear. Vertical caves like this one demanded flawless rope work to avoid disaster. That morning, the team geared up for their descent, believing they were prepared. Their first obstacle was the upper bound, a 22-foot vertical drop. A fall from this height onto solid limestone could be lethal. Two members completed the descent safely using proper technique. The third caver began his descent using a brake bar system. He rigged his equipment incorrectly, skipping a vital step. His rope lacked the friction required to control his descent. As he stepped over the edge, the rope slipped freely through his device. He realized too late that he was falling uncontrolled. The walls blurred as gravity hurled him downward. He slammed into the limestone floor below. The group rushed to him, expecting the worst. Against all odds, he was alive and conscious. Shaking, he stood, stunned, but apparently uninjured. The psychological shock was immediate. Despite the close call, they chose to continue the descent. The group pressed forward, deeper into Parker's Pit. The cave narrowed and darkened, dangers increasing with each step. They approached the Z-bend, the cave's most feared feature. The Z-bend consisted of jagged twists and compressing passages. The first caver entered feet first, sliding on his stomach. He warned of the tightness as he maneuvered the first bend. The second entered feet first on his back. He immediately became wedged in the passage. The rock compressed his chest, making breathing difficult. Panic made his muscles expand, worsening his entrapment. He cried out, loud enough for the others to hear. Two teammates began the rescue attempt immediately. One approached from behind, the other from ahead. Every movement was calculated to avoid further entrapment. The rock walls resisted all efforts to shift the trapped man. The rescuers worked in contorted, dangerous positions. The trapped man's breathing became rapid and shallow. Oxygen deprivation set in as time passed. His skin grew pale from restricted circulation. His strength began to fade. Slowly and with immense difficulty, they moved him forward. Each inch was earned through sweat and strain. Rock scraped against skin and tore fabric. The man's body sagged as they neared the narrowest point. They pulled as he slipped through the final tight space. He emerged just before exhaustion overcame him. The team knew the cave had nearly claimed a life. They began their retreat, silent and grim. The cave seemed darker and colder than before. Each step back to the surface was filled with tension. Their breathing echoed in the stone corridors. Finally, light appeared ahead, daylight. They climbed out one by one. No one spoke. Jacob's Well tragedy. Beneath the hills of Wimberley, Texas lies Jacob's Well, a spring-fed cave system masked as a tranquil pool. On November 23, 1983, two experienced university divers ignored posted warnings and entered the water at 8:30 p.m. The surface of Jacob's Well shimmered in the twilight, giving no hint of the deadly labyrinth beneath. Equipped with standard scuba gear and lights, the divers submerged into the vertical limestone shaft. Natural light faded as they descended. Only artificial beams illuminated the walls. They failed to attach a guideline. Standard cave diving protocol meant to guide divers back out. At 90 feet deep, they reached a sealed passage, once closed off by a metal grate after a past fatality. The grate was missing. Someone had removed or destroyed the barrier, exposing the deadly tunnel again. Despite the known danger, they decided to proceed deeper into the system. The tunnel narrowed. Scuba tanks had to be removed and pushed ahead. Each diver kept the breathing regulator in his mouth, dragging tanks through the rock. The limestone pressed in from all sides as the passage tightened. Their lights bounced off identical walls, creating disorienting shadows. Midway through, Patton's tank got wedged, completely stuck between the stone walls. They could not free it. Now, low on air, they began buddy breathing from a single tank. The plan? Pass the regulator back and forth and exit the system immediately. But they made a fatal navigation error. Instead of heading to the main entrance, they swam upward into a blind chimney. This vertical tunnel led to solid rock. No exit, no surface. Their regulator passed between them, but air was running out. At the chimney's ceiling, they discovered the dead end. Panic surged as their breathing quickened, wasting the last of their oxygen. With no air left and nowhere to go, they faced a final choice. Patton's companion abandoned him and swam back down, leaving him alone. He descended blindly, hoping to find the correct passage to the surface. Somehow, he reached open water and broke the surface, gasping. Help was summoned immediately. Rescue divers responded quickly, diving into the well's dangerous system. They reached the blind chimney and found Patton's body inside. He had drowned in complete darkness, trapped in a passage that went nowhere. On the morning of November 24th, recovery divers brought his body to the surface. Hale's and Marrow's nightmare. Nutty Putty Cave, hidden in the hills of Utah, is a winding maze of tight tunnels and unpredictable passageways. On July 28, 1999, two teenagers, Chris Hales and Chris Marrow, entered that darkness unaware of how close they'd come to death. They were 17, on summer break, camping with friends 70 miles south of Salt Lake City. At 9 a.m., they stepped into the cave, crawling, laughing, and testing their limits. Inside, they marveled at strange formations and the alien beauty of the underground world. Then, they split from the main group. Hales and Marrow were searching for a challenge. They aimed for the birth canal, a tight, infamous passage within Nutty Putty. Marrow led the way, belly crawling through narrow limestone crevices. But he made a critical mistake. He veered off into the wrong tunnel, narrower and sloping downward. He didn't realize his error until it was too late. The passage grew tighter until he could go no further. He was stuck. He screamed back to Hales not to follow. But Hales was already descending, head first and upside down. Both boys were now wedged, motionless, facing solid rock. They couldn't move forward or backward. Their shouts echoed through the cave. Luckily, their friends heard them and ran for help. Within an hour, 40 rescue personnel arrived at the scene. Rescuers crawled into the cave, assessing the boys' positions. Ropes were tied around their legs. They were offered water, small snacks, and words of comfort. The effort focused on Hales first. The rope teams pulled gently while bracing the tunnel walls. The cave's angle made extraction difficult and exhausting. Every tug risked injury. It took hours of calculated effort. At 10:30 p.m., Hales was pulled free after over 12 hours trapped. Marrow was next. He had been wedged even deeper. Rescuers rotated shifts due to the cave's tightness. Pulling was slow, measured, and deliberate. Marrow's body was compressed from all sides. His breathing was shallow. Rescuers used padding, harnesses, and support boards. At dawn, he was finally freed. Both boys had survived with minor physical injuries. Their rescue was deemed a success. For Marrow, the trauma didn't stop him. He returned to Nutty Putty twice more. He even visited the same tunnel where he'd once been trapped. Bueno Fonteno, Cave Nightmare. On December 14, 2024, 9 experienced cavers gathered at the entrance of the Bueno Fonteno cave system near Bergamo, Italy. Led by 32-year-old speleologist Ottavia Piana, the team aimed to map unexplored sections of the vast limestone network. The known system extended over 19 kilometers, but much remained uncharted. Despite a prior rescue just 17 months earlier, Piana returned to the same cave with renewed determination. By morning, they had entered the cave, moving steadily into its cold 10 degrees Celsius environment. 4 kilometers from the entrance, the terrain narrowed and twisted through virgin limestone. At 4:30 p.m., disaster struck as Piana stepped onto a ledge that collapsed beneath her. The rock snapped with a sharp crack, and she fell 5 meters into darkness. Her body landed hard on the jagged limestone, the impact echoing through the cave. Her team descended quickly to reach her, finding her crumpled and broken. Her knee was twisted at an unnatural angle, and her face showed signs of multiple fractures. She could only mumble, repeating the phrase, "Never again." The cave blocked all communication signals. They were isolated deep underground. The team leader made the decision to send one member on a solo escape to seek help. At 5:45 p.m., the rescuer began the 4-kilometer crawl back to the surface. He emerged at 8:20 p.m. and contacted the Italian National Alpine and Speleological Rescue Corps. Rescue coordination began immediately with urgency and dread. Vehicles were loaded with medical kits, stretchers, and rope systems. Meanwhile, Piana remained deep underground with minimal care. The first rescue team reached her location at 8 a.m. the next day. She had been in pain and cold for over 16 hours. Medical assessment confirmed facial fractures, broken ribs, and a severe knee injury. Her vital signs were stable, but hypothermia was a growing threat. She was secured in a stretcher and prepped for evacuation. Teams of 6 rotated every 90 minutes to move her inch by inch. Every stop included medical checks and route planning. Rescuers worked in tight, wet, and unstable conditions. On December 16th, they encountered a full blockage in one passage. The ceiling had collapsed, cutting off their route. Small explosive charges were carefully used to clear the blockage. The new path exposed slippery rock and rising water. Rope lines were installed for safety and stability. Piana's condition began to decline after 3 days underground. Despite warming efforts, her body temperature dropped steadily. Her breathing was affected by the fractured ribs. Teams accelerated the operation, extending shifts and bringing in reinforcements. Communication lines were extended the full 4 kilometers. On December 18th at 1:30 a.m., the team reached familiar, mapped terrain. From there, rescue progressed more quickly with pre-rigged systems. Supply caches along the known passages sped up the effort. At 6 a.m., rescuers emerged with Piana into the cold dawn. She had spent 4 full days in the cave. The journey covered 4 kilometers of difficult and unexplored terrain. A total of 159 volunteers participated in the rescue. She was immediately transported to a hospital for evaluation. Doctors confirmed extensive trauma to her ribs, face, and leg. Her first words were a vow. She would never enter a cave again.